Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the first Chapter Leaders Conference call of 2023. Joining me tonight, Rob Bernstein, who is my co-pilot for this presentation. He's the chair of the San Diego chapter and also a member of the Chapter Leaders Executive Committee. I'm Hollis Wagenstein-Herturk, and I'm the New York City Program Chair, as well as the National Chapter Liaison. And we have a couple of friendly, familiar, and esteemed voices as well. We'll start with Charles Rothblatt, our Vice President, and our President and CEO, John Bukowski, and Pete Wynn, our Marketing Director, and Jenna Brashear, our Digital Marketing and Community Manager, also known as the patron saint of community. Before we get started, just want to take a moment to wish John a happy birthday and to thank him from the bottom of our hearts from taking time away from his birthday celebrations to spend some time with us tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm at that age where I'm more than happy to forget these birthdays. So,
Okay, well, we won't forget all the things you contribute to making AAII such a spectacular place to belong to work for, and to learn from. So thank you, John, and happy birthday.
thank you. I've got a great team here. So kudos goes to the team. Thank you.
Yes. And hopefully tonight we will deliver news that you can use. I have this riff that I developed, news that will affect you, can benefit you, and that you contribute to. It's as easy as ABC. But before I go further, I'd like to turn the podium over to Charles because he has another commitment later this evening, and I want to give him the first opportunity to talk with us so that we will be able to hear whatever he has planned to share with us without any interruption. I'm going to stop screen sharing, Charles, and it's all yours.
Great. Thanks, Hollis. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Let me get to that screen here. Hopefully that's showing up so everyone can see it. So I want to talk to a few things. One, I wanted to touch just on investor sentiment. As many of you all know, we do a weekly sentiment survey, and every week since July 1987, we've been asking members a very simple question. Over the next 6 months, do you expect the stocks to rise, which is bullish, stay unchanged, which is neutral, or fall, which is bearish? And so we have a long history. We have over 1,850 weeks of weekly readings for the survey. And since the bear market started in January 2022, the current bear market, 17 of the lowest 65 readings for bullish sentiment have occurred since January 2022. So to put this in a different perspective, over the last 14 months, if we took all, I think the number's around 1,862, I'm pretty close with that. We took all those, ranked those from lowest to highest. Out of the lowest 65, we've seen 17 of those over the last 14 months. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out is what I've seen over the course of my career, not only working at AAII, but also working at other organizations, and certainly John has, Pete has, others have as well. Whenever investors tend to be pessimistic about the market, and it's just not individual investors, it's likely with institutional investors as well, they tend to go in a hunker down mode. They want to disengage, when in fact what they should do is fall in that old adage of being greedy when others are fearful, and really logging into AI.com, taking advantage of our tools, going to chapter meetings, doing all they can to start uncovering those options that are suddenly available to them, great companies, great stocks that are perhaps trading at discounted prices. Unfortunately, human psychology is what it is. And so for those of you who have noticed that your media attendance has gone down, this is likely playing a role. Obviously, we can't discount COVID itself. Some people still not wanting to get involved in group gatherings. Also, it's just changed behaviors where we've seen people, maybe they've picked up new things, maybe they just have different interests, or perhaps in some cases where they can't make it to the meeting physically, there could potentially be Zoom burnout. So there are other factors, but certainly we can't rule out low optimism as having a role in terms of meeting attendance. So I wanted to call that to your attention. On a positive note, what we've seen throughout the history of the survey, whenever bullish sentiment is unusually low, we've seen stocks outperform over the following 6 and 12 months. So even though we're continuing to see low levels of bullish sentiment, it is a contrarian indicator. And if history plays out in the future, we could hopefully be looking at positive returns for the market going forward. Knock on wood on that. But we're not sitting still. We're continuing to look at what we're offering members, trying to figure out how can we better empower them, how can we help them overcome the challenges they face, and also how can we make our tools more intuitive so they're able to make better decisions. Among the things we're doing, I'll point out two things on the mutual fund and ETF side. One is we're redoing our mutual fund and ETF guide interfaces. So right now we have all the data on mutual funds and ETFs available on our website, over 25,000 mutual funds, close to 3,000 ETFs. We're changing the interface that's going to make it easier for people to get to the information on those funds they want to. It's going to make it easier for them to dig into the data. But beyond that, we also have an ETF and fund compare tool on our website right now that allows you to do side-by-side comparisons. We're in the process of actually revising that. I've been calling it the Fund Decider tool internally, but we're going to take the data, not only show it to you, like for instance, if you go on Best Buy, you're looking at perhaps a PC, you see a list of all the data. We're actually going to create a tool that's going to allow you to look at the data. If I plot ETF A versus ETF B, or mutual fund A versus mutual fund B together, we'll give you guidance on, well, which metrics actually better for which fund. So if you're looking at certain funds, you'll be able to see which fund quantitatively should be more attractive based on the data. And both of these will be member benefits. I will add on the A+ investor side, we are redoing our mutual fund screener and our ETF screener. We're actually going to have a uniform interface that also encompasses our online stock screener. So people who are A+ investors will have access to 3 screeners. They can go jump them back and forth between with one click. And again, an improved interface. We're also redoing our sentiment survey page. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I know a lot of you who are chapter leaders are always wanting to know what we're doing about bringing in new people as members to AAII. Our sentiment page tends to be one of the more popular pages in terms of attracting outside visitors. So we're adding new information to the page. We're giving it a new look. And the goal is to get members to spend more time on the page. And hopefully the more time they spend on our website, the more they'll decide, this is interesting. I want to see what else is on the website. And then hopefully that converts them to members and lifetime members at that. So it's something we're doing to help attract new members. And as visitors come to our website, getting them to stay for a while and again, hopefully become members. But we're doing many other things as well behind the scenes. Some of the things are pretty small. Some of the things are going to be bigger. But I do want to emphasize that we're not ones to sit on our laurels. We're constantly looking at how can we help our members become better investors and how we can help them solve their challenges. And one of those things we're doing is we're looking at our offerings and we're incorporating member feedback. It's something we've always done. It's something we're continuing to do. You'll see this in the April issue, which will be out on our website on Monday. And our wealth building process has been a five-step plan to help individual investors achieve the goals and really align all their investing decisions with their goals. We have a Prism Academy and community. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to use it. But one of the things we're coming out with is just showing people how can you create a wealth building plan on one page, a very simple plan. The idea being that we know plans, checklists, those types of things, any type of written guidance you have to guide your decisions works across a variety of fields, not just investing. It works in medicine, it works in aviation. If you want to run a marathon, it works for that. the idea is if you have even a simple plan, you're going to make better decisions. And so we don't want people to think complication or time are an obstacle to creating a plan. So we're creating plans, showing people, here's what a one-page wealth building plan looks like that they themselves can implement. And we're not just creating, here's a plan you can use, but we're actually targeting this towards specific demographic groups. So what you see in front of you is geared to a 35-year-old investor. And it can be an investor who's say 25 or say one who's 40. But the idea is if they're young, they have a few decades to save for retirement, but they know they need to save for retirement. What does that plan look like? And we're going to make these available for various demographic groups. So if someone's coming to our site and they want help creating a plan, they want guidance on what do I do, we're going to have a series of these wealth building plans they'll be able to access. And again, it'll help tie into the tools we have across AAI.com, help them get more out of membership. But again, most importantly, help them along their investing journey and hopefully empower them to make better investing decisions. Hollis, I'll turn it over to you again.
Thank you, Charles. If
Sure.
you have questions for Charles right now, I'd be grateful if you would place them in the Q&A box that you see a little bit to the center left at the bottom of your screen. If Charles can't get to them live, he'll be able to answer them in community after this event takes place. So we would try to get to everyone's questions live. If we can't, you'll get a follow-up answer in community.
Yeah, I apologize to everyone. I'll have to drop off a little bit early. My mom's a Holocaust survivor, and she's being an honored guest at the San Antonio Holocaust Museum. So, although I did put on the bow tie for you all, I also put it on for her as well.
That is absolutely awesome. I think people haven't had a chance to digest what they've seen, but yes, we are getting one or two questions coming in. Rich Billington asks, the upcoming new features sound great. When will they be accessible?
We're hoping by sometime in the second quarter. We're getting close on a few of those. The interface for the guides will take a little bit longer, but hopefully we're hoping to have that up by the end of the second quarter is our goal. But it is a technology technology project, and sometimes best laid plans sometimes do get stretched out a little bit, but it is a priority for us, and our developers are actively working on it.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question. I know that we're targeting and trying to attract younger investors, but the average age of the current AAII member is 71. And I'd like to know whether the PRISM method can work for people who are already in the retirement phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter. I use retirement as an example for the age group we're targeting, but we're going to have it out for different goals. Perhaps you're thinking about leaving a legacy for your heirs. We're gonna approach that. It's been suggested to me at the other side, thinking about very short-term goals. So, but it's a process. So it's not a set way of do X, Y, and Z. It's really guidelines that you can actually use to set your own plan. And the great thing about Prism is that it's highly customizable. We'll give you the guardrails to create your plan around about what things you need to consider, and also guidance on how often you should monitor. But you can adapt it to your personal situation, regardless of your age, regardless of your goal, and regardless if that goal is short-term, intermediate term, or long-term. It really is a universal system that can be adapted to each person's situation and goals.
I know that you have a very robust PRISM community set up on the AAII website. I'm wondering if there are any plans or consideration for creating subgroups so that people in their early investing phase can talk to one another, people in midlife, their peak earning years can talk to one another, and people in the retirement or pre-retirement phase can hang out with their cohorts.
Yeah, we certainly have some groups right now in community oriented towards retired investors, but certainly, it's as we get more feedback from community and we get interest from members, we'll certainly expand community to target them to those. So, obviously, if there's a lot of interest for say younger adults or middle-aged people that want to, hey, I'm saving for this goal and I want other people to talk to, we're very happy to help facilitate that.
Okay, we've pretty much run out of the immediate questions for Charles, although if you have questions later, we'll keep them in chat. We'll keep them in the Q&A and we will transfer them to community where Charles can respond later on. Before we move on to the next speaker, I'd like to thank Charles for sharing his story about his mom with us. It's awesome. And we all
Thank you.
join you in congratulating her for what she's been through and what she's done to help others.
Thank you.
Please give our best wishes to her.
Will do.
Okay. I think at this time I saw John raring to go. His slides came up. So there will be a time towards the end when I will, people are asking if we'll be talking about what's going on in the chapters themselves. And I do have something prepared, but I don't want to interfere with the flow of the other speakers. So if it's all right, we'll ask John to share his screen and present his ideas to us.
Will do. Thank you, Alice. In fact, I'm going to have my wingman here, Pete, start this sharing process.
Couldn't ask for a better wingman.
That's exactly the case. What I'm going to be discussing today are some of the results of our survey. We, on an annual basis, send out a survey to members, and we do it to try to gauge their interests, their needs, and how we could tailor our material to them. And I thought you as local chapter leaders might benefit from that as well, to the extent it might help you with your planning purposes and figure out what kind of speakers they want and what kind of topics they wish to do. And then at the end of my presentation, I'll also show what ChatGPT did some analysis of some of the questions or suggestions that our members had in our survey as far as how to improve the local chapter system. So I'll go ahead and share those as well with you. So in terms of our overall membership, Hollis, in fact, we just got these results in today. I want to thank Jenna for processing these for us. But our current read of members this year is that the average age is actually 72 years old now. There are terms of people that are actually responding. Most of them tend to be male, and about 77 or 3/4 are retired. They're typically highly educated. 16% have a doctorate degree. A third have graduate degrees, and typically higher on the spectrum as far as wealth is concerned, and also have a pretty good size portfolio. When we ask whether or not they consider themselves to be beginners or more advanced investors, most of them, are on the more above average size. They think themselves as. Very few of them think of them as beginners. Only 20% are saying they're currently below average as far as on the beginner side. So whether they identify themselves that or whether we are attracting the more sophisticated investor, my guess is we are attracting and retaining the more sophisticated investor. In fact, most of them spend about 6.2 hours per week, so roughly an hour a day, as far as looking at their portfolio. Of course, anytime you ask a question like that, there's a great variance. For some people, they're spending 35 hours, 40 hours a week. Others are spending just a few hours a week. But all in all, that's our members are typically doing this because they really find the process of investing, the process of analysis interesting, and they look to us to help give them some ideas as far as that is being concerned. And then we ask, well, how do you basically, what's your approach to investing? And about a quarter of them are just simply indexers, looking to low-cost indexing. They're focused on fundamental analysis. Very few of our members are just out and out only technicians in their approach, but 20% of them combine both elements of fundamental analysis and technical analysis. And in this context, 7% said they use a professional to help them in their analysis. And we asked a new question this year. We had a pretty big grouping of others. So we're curious to see what role investment newsletters had in making their investment selection decisions. And 14% of our members in our current survey said they use investment newsletters to help guide them in making stock selections or timing decisions. And then how do they learn? So we broke it down into 5 different broad segments. And most of them, in responding to us, they'd like to read educational articles, whether they're reading them online, through webinars or whatever, but like to read. followed up by flowcharts, infographics, tables. So they love being able to pick something up in their hand or look at it online. They love graphics. They like short videos. 34%, a third said they want videos, and then in the 15% range or so, podcasts or webinars such as this one, I guess. So in terms of our membership base, how they're responding, we're attracting the more sophisticated people who like to read stuff or see, in some cases, more of a graphic on how to represent the investment process. Not surprisingly, they tend to focus on discount brokers or use a combination of full service and discount brokers. About a third of our members use a financial planner. And in most cases, that's going to be a fee-only planner. We have seen more and more people switching to robo-advisors. About 20% of those who use a financial planner use a robo-advisor in that context. So a third of our members have a financial planner to assist them, maybe making a big plan. They typically are dealing with fee-only advisors as well. Most of them are only a third of the people who use a financial planner rely on a commission-only planner for that process. So now we get into like what kind of analysis our members like to see and look at. And all in all, I mean, coinciding with some of what we saw before, I mean, fundamental analysis, they like to see that fundamental analysis. Although it's interesting that this year we saw a downtick in the very interested. We saw a downtick from very to interested. Still, they like fundamental analysis, but we saw a slight downtick in the numbers who said on the very side of that. Here again, they like seeing charts, less so than the raw fundamental analysis. And a new question we asked this year is how reliant are they, or how much like to see articles and see stuff on market trend analysis, whether it's long-term trends, moving averages, or charting. So there's definitely interest in that. Perhaps not as high on the fundamental side, but there's definitely an interest in looking at a understanding of is the market in an uptrend, downtrend, and what kind of tools can they use to follow that. Our members are reliant on exchange traded funds and mutual funds, but again, in a bit of a surprise this year, we did see a downtick on the very interested side into the interested side. I can't tell you why that occurred. It's a bit of a surprise. I would have seen continued uptick. Only seems to be pointing to people perhaps our members are more focused on the stock side of the analysis. We did see a slight uptick in those who are looking at bonds now. Perhaps that's a function of us coming out of a last year where the interest rates went up, bond market crashed last year. Now they have perhaps opportunities to look at higher interest rates as far as bonds, but we did see a slight uptick in those that want to see things on as far as bond investing strategies. The options is always interesting because it's a very, I would call it a very barbellish response to interest. It's an area where a large percentage of our members don't have any interest at all, 61%, but then 13% are very interested and they're very vocal. So the options are one of those things. About 15% of our members get involved in options, and those who do, of course, you have to be very actively involved in that, want a lot of information, but it only appeals to a slice, perhaps 20% of our membership. In the past, REITs tend to be more popular as far as more information on REITs. Again, a little bit of a downtick this year as far as that is concerned. And our members, I know, my mailbox is typically inundated with offers on cryptocurrency, webinars and newsletters and whatnot. But for the most part, our members just don't really have a lot of interest in cryptocurrency, and probably even less so since we've had the downturn in the value of cryptocurrency over the last half year or so. So again, some information, but it's not a primary thing. What they do want to see, though, is information on income generation. Again, it kind of a function of our members being a little bit older, having a pretty good sized portfolio, wanting to live off their portfolio, perhaps. So they love to see income generation. And even more than topics in the area of planning for retirement, they love to see things that are helpful while they're in retirement, how to make use of those retirement assets they've saved. So that's the kind of stuff that really gets them interested and makes them want to get involved as far as reading articles and getting involved in. This next slide here, and we'll make all these slides available for download, just simply asks them, what do they invest in? And again, bread and butter, 91% of our members who responded invest in stocks, 77 in mutual funds, exchange traded funds, bonds, 62. On the lower end, stock options, about 15%. So cryptocurrency, 6%. Only 5%, they said they have an ESG focus on their investments. About 4 or 5% fairly consistently looking at alternatives. Even though we have members that have potentially a little bit larger portfolio, for the most part, they're not looking at private equity, hedge funds, or things of that nature. More the bread and butter, stock, funds, bonds, REITs, types of investments as far as what they actually own. And then we tried to get a little bit of information on what value they find in various parts of their membership offerings. And for the most part, they like the journal. Although, Charles, I don't want to get your bow tie spinning, but I saw that the number of members who thought the journal was very valuable dipped from 54 to 38. So whether or not this is a bad read, I don't know. But obviously, you better get that keyboard out and start making that thing a little bit more interesting. And then they typically, more and more members are getting it digitally. So we tried to get a sense for how they want to receive it, how they read it. But about 62% read it via the mail, 34, about a third read it online, and then a small percentage, only 4 or 5%, typically download it. And then a new question we asked this year was whether or not they thought the mix of articles was either too basic, too much on the beginning side, or too advanced. And for the most part, 83% said it was a good mix between beginning and advanced articles. And 10%, and I haven't had a chance to look at those other questions at the answer there, 10% said it was something else. So that'd be kind of interesting to take a look at those hand typed in answers as far as what they think that we should do, or how we can improve the journal itself. And then again, about a third typically would like to see getting the journal via some sort of e-reader format and whatnot. And then coming to our website, again, here, they typically do find it to be a helpful resource, but close to 40% say it's only on the somewhat valuable or no value side. So that tells us we gotta get cracking and gotta get that mutual fund screening tool that Charles talked about up there in the comparison tool, make that stuff more valuable to them. And for the most part, I mean, it's interesting is that only 40% of our members use a mobile phone to track their portfolio or assets or get news information. And I think that's a function of our older demographic. I know if I were to ask that question of my children and their friends, it would be flipped, probably would be 90-10. So obviously, the more we can make our information useful on a phone, the more I think we'll be able to attract a slightly younger group to our association. And for the most part, our members are not big on social media events. Most popular one is Facebook. About a quarter of them use it somewhat regularly. 60%, 57 don't use it at all. LinkedIn has grown a little bit as far as usage overall, 16%. But then things like Twitter, Instagram, I mean, just really don't use those types of tools too much. So it's difficult to reach our existing membership base. Doesn't mean if we want to reach new members, they won't work. But for as far as communicating with our existing membership base, those tools are not as helpful. And then the last question here, last page I have here, we ask, have you attended a local chapter webinar in the past 12 months or done an online version of it? The question, I guess, webinars, good. About 10% of our members said they have. Bit of an uptick over 7% last year. Used to be more, even as high as 17, 16% years ago when we had more chapters. And then we asked a simple question of our members. We asked them to simply write in, what can we do to help improve local chapters for them? And I had about 180 or so responses. And so we just basically summed them all up. We took all of them, passed them on to the current version of ChatGPT, and asked, one of the things it does very well is summarize text data. And we had it go ahead and look at all these responses and just try to give us a summary on what we can do to improve local chapters. And here are the 6 things it came up with. Number 1 was location and accessibility. Many respondents mentioned the need for meetings to be closer to their homes in nearby areas or within their cities. Number two, online and virtual options. Several people suggested using Zoom or other online platforms to enable remote participation, especially in light of COVID-19, other travel limitations. This, again, it's reading what they said and giving a response. I know many of our chapters are doing Zoom. Some chose not to, so the more that could do it, there would be a barrier for making the chapters better. A lot of people simply said scheduling and time commitments. It's difficult sometimes to meet the meetings or have them finish their schedule if they don't have the time. I think I saw a lot of people said, give me more time, almost as a joke with question mark or a little grin afterwards. If they had more time, they would love to do this kind of stuff. But one of the advantages of doing the Zoom meetings is that they could watch them at their convenience later on. Number four, content and presentation. A few people suggested improving the quality of speakers and presentations, focusing more on relevant and current topics, and reducing the complexity of information shared. So that was getting information that they find of interest and having it not over their head, I think is sort of probably what they're trying to say, is summarizing that. Audience and demographics. Some comments mentioned the need for younger speakers and audience members, as well as more diverse and inclusive environment. And number six, I feel like we have David Letterman here, but I only have 6 here, not 10. But awareness and information. Several respondents were not aware of local chapter meetings or needed more details about their schedules and locations. So it's that falls on to us trying to make information about local chapters better known and the various meeting options they have. And that's sort of a summary of hopefully some information that you will find useful as far as planning meetings and having a better sense for what our membership looks like. With that, Hollis, I'll throw the ball over to you. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them. And if I can't answer them, I'll throw them over to Pete.
Thank you, John. That was very, very interesting. And I want to invite the other listeners to type their questions into the Q&A box. We have one from David Drake. He says, why was the journal readership so low in 2016 and before?
If let's see here. Charles, if you have any, did he lose Charles?
I believe Charles has already left the meeting.
Left the building.
But we can
he's
keep,
up,
we can
he's
get
up there with
further.
Elvis.
I'm sorry?
He must have left the building with Elvis.
Yes, and he had
That is interesting. You're right. I'd almost guess that if I were to, I would guess, and that's a great observation, that those are probably reversed. Those are probably backwards in error. That would be my guess. I'm fine that I find those numbers unbelievable. That's a good catch on your part and a bad catch on my part.
Thank you. We'll look into it further. A question from Alan Hoppy in Twin Cities. What's the growth and stability of SIGs versus chapters?
It's a good question. Hollis, do you have any sense for that?
Yeah, and I'm going to deal with that when I get to my section about what's going on in the chapters. I believe that we should be cross-promoting, we should be collaborating, and we should be unifying. One quick example, San Diego has a very robust options SIG, and we also have an option strategy SIG. When San Diego sponsored one of its live streamed meetings, we cross-promoted, we announced it in the option strategy SIG, and we drew additional members and participants. The old Johnny Appleseed Borscht Belt circuit of the speakers going from chapter to chapter is totally outdated, and we no longer have to work in silos. The add-on question would be, rather than comparing the growth between the two, let's use the SIGs and the chapters to help each other both grow.
Agreed. So stay tuned, because Hollis is going to give us a few more details later on in this webinar on what possibly can be done to help improve your local chapters and participation. And I think perhaps Jenna as well.
Yes. I don't see any immediate questions for John. Let me make one last scan. Yes, thank you. From Lowell Carty. Any thoughts of including option availability for the entities in the model's shadow stock portfolio and strategies
Oh.
for the options?
Yeah, it's a fair question. And typically speaking, a lot of the shadow stocks themselves are so illiquid. I wonder if they even have any kind of active trading, active option activity on them. Yeah, I could take a look and see the option availability, but with the model shadow stock portfolio, I just wonder if there's enough liquidity to actually have meaningful options traffic. I think the delta would be so high, it'd be kind of crazy. But interesting question, something I'll pursue.
John, I have a question that may or may not be appropriate. A lot of the chapter leaders and new chapter members, even old chapter members, are just getting acquainted with the different products that AAII offers. And we're trying to stimulate that. If somebody is just introduced to the model shadow stock portfolio, what's the best way for them to get started, to hop on board, knowing that a lot of people have been following it for years? How do we start in the middle?
Yeah, probably, hopefully that we have online guides that are helpful, but it's the model shadow stock portfolio itself is focused on micro caps and micro cap value stocks. So they tend to be a little bit less liquid. But what we do on a regular, and we try to buy securities that are deep value, and we indicate whether or not what the price to book value is. We use price to book as our primary metric. We also use market cap. So if you want to get started, I would look at the model shadow stock portfolio or the shadow stock ideas and focusing on those that have the lowest price to book and lowest market cap as a starting point. And anytime I find you have a portfolio like that, you're going to have you have to have some diversification in there. So again, this should be part of your portfolio, but you want to make sure you have enough of the stocks in your portfolio so that chances are you're going to have a couple of dogs in there, and most will simply follow the small cap part of the marketplace, and a couple of big winners. So if as much as possible, look at those that currently qualify, and if you want to go a little bit past those that qualify, those that have the lower price to book and market cap will be somewhat characteristic of what the model shadow stock portfolio is trying to capture. And that's all available to members if they go to the model shadow stock section of our website. And we have displays of both current companies, whether they qualify, and also a daily updated ideas list of stocks that meet the current criteria for becoming a shadow stock.
Thank you. Robert Lutke asks, how many emails does HQ headquarters send out about a specific local chapter meeting? And I think that falls into my wheelhouse a little bit, but since it appears now, I wanted to give you a chance, John, to address it. And then both Jenna and I can talk about how the chapters themselves have more control and autonomy about sending emails to the community.
Pete, probably more familiar with our email system than I am, so.
Sure. So generally speaking, the list sizes for each local chapter promotional mailing vary based on the number of people who have signed up to receive information on that. That's the extent. I don't have specific numbers, but I believe that some of the larger local chapters, such as New York, for some reason the number 5,000 seems about there. I'm not sure if that's
that is correct. Yes.
So that's generally the size. Hollis or Jenna, if you'd like to share some more about how the rules are created on how the emails are done, you feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So basically, with the adaption of the AAII community, like Hollis mentioned, this gives chapter leaders a primary role in heading up their correspondence, which gives them a lot of autonomy. It's been fantastic. A lot of our chapters have really and I really have appreciated everybody adapting it and being very flexible and learning how to email out to people. But basically, it reads from the list size itself reads directly from our EPC, which is on our account. So when you sign up to be an AAII member, or if you are already an AI member, you can always adjust it as well, but you just go into your account settings on the website and you'll be able to adjust which chapters and you can also select more than one, even if, let's say you're from the Seattle area, but let's say you're you used to live in New York, or you have friends in New York, or you go there often to vacation or something like that. You can select to receive both Seattle and New York, which gives people access to basically more chapters, more meetings, recordings, things like that. But basically, yeah, the member is in charge of selecting which chapters that they would like to receive correspondence from, and that directly correlates to the numbers that chapter leaders will see in their when they email out to their members. So when you do email your members from your specific AI community, you'll actually see they'll give you a number on the very top of how many people you're actually reaching. And so, obviously it varies from chapter to chapter. I think 5,000 is correct for New York. It really depends on just how many people, acquired over the years. And so that's the basic of it. It's pretty simple, and everybody's able to see that, which is nice. So it gives a little bit more transparency as well.
Okay, thank you, Jenna. John, I think we have completed the questions that are specific for you. I'm doing one last check. Yeah, we're getting some questions that will fit better into Pete's and Jenna's sections, and even mine. So I just wanted to thank you, John, and once again wish you a happy birthday. You celebrated with us in the best of all possible ways, and now I hope you'll get to do some celebrating on your own.
This doesn't get any better than this. Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't get any better than this for us too. Well said. All right, now it's Pete's turn.
Thank you, Hollis. So I'm going to share 4 bar charts that I think will appropriately describe and illustrate the basic questions that you as chapter leaders have. Are we growing members? What kinds of members are coming in? And how are we doing it? That's what I'm trying to achieve here in showing these slides. This bar chart is a look back at the last 6 years of digital acquisition. We've made a focus on this. The obvious benefits of digital acquisition is that these folks tend to be younger. They will also they're economically beneficial because they're easy to reach through email, and they'll also renew at a higher rate. So those are kind of the qualities of these people that is attractive to us. So since taking a stronger focus on digital acquisition, that really started coming around in 2020 through 2021. So you see a big jump there. 2022 was a challenging year because of the market sentiment. And I prefer to focus on the things that are changing and how our strategy is looking forward. But despite cutting spending on paid digital by about 57% last year compared to the year prior, we only had a decline of 8% on new digitally acquired members. I find that to be actually remarkable in a year that the S&P dropped by 20%. So we're making progress there. I give a lot of credit to my team, Jenna as well as Remy, for building a strong digital marketing program in order to acquire people. A little more information on this chart. What does it mean by trial adjusted members? Well, around 2020, we began testing a new strategy for acquiring members on our landing pages. We had traditionally offered the membership for $29. We had increased then the prices to $49, and then we started experimenting with trials. So if you go to the landing page, then you would have seen a $1 trial that would have renewed to $49. We tested then further into creating low price trials that would renew to premium products as bundles. So that has all worked out, and we've stuck with it, and it has been economically beneficial, while having a minor suppression on the number of people who would convert. We still were able to grow membership, and so that's just, again, I think an impressive thing that we did there. On the next slide, this kind of describes the channel mix. Now, there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to go too much into the weeds, but in 2020, we did not have a robust attribution system. So we had implemented that in 2021. So you're going to see a lot more colored bands there. But the basic story is that we had shifted a lot of our of the channels that our members are coming in from direct mail to digital. So that maroon colored band there represents back office orders, and those are just people sending in checks through direct mail. The salmon colored band is folk coming in through direct mail, but then they were going to a landing page on our website. So we've been able to increase the number of those people. And these days, it's about a third of the people that come in through direct mail, basically turning an offline channel into an online channel. And that has grown from that 33% number has grown from 9% when we first started doing it. You'll also notice in Q1 of 2022, why did we not make a lot of sales in the back office then? We had actually delayed our direct mail campaign by a couple months because of supply chain issues. So there was an envelope shortage that made us delay our campaign and launch it in March instead of the usual January. So that's the story there. The other color I want to draw your attention to is the red and the blue at the bottom on 2021, 2022, and 2023 Q1s of those years. So on the red side, organic/paid social, we had started doing a lot of work there in acquiring members through paid social. Probably 90%, 99% of the traffic there was actually paid rather than organic. And so in other words, we were sending people ads on Facebook, for example, and driving traffic to our website and then converting them to members there. That worked well initially. We then started to encounter some attribution issues. We also found that the cost per acquisition increased. So we have backed away from that strategy and are focusing more on a paid lead generation strategy, which takes some time to bake. So we started that this quarter. So that's the explanation for why that band is shrinking. On the other side, on the blue bands with organic and paid search, 99% of that traffic is organic search. And so that's where a lot of our attention has
Organic search is what, Pete?
Organic search is traffic that comes in from people that will do a Google query. So in other words, Apple stock, AAPL stock could be an example query that someone is typing in. And our goal is to rank highly on the search results so that the user will then click on the article and read it and find our content valuable, and then we'll convert into membership because they found something valuable out of that. So we did a really big push on that last year, and this quarter already we've doubled what we've done the year prior in Q1. So we're making progress there, and what I wanted to illustrate was that the organic search channel is important to us because this is a free channel. And John's quick to point out that nothing's free. There's the cost to implement it. But in terms of media budget, it is free, and it's also a channel that will continue growing in terms of the traffic as well as the members that will encounter these articles. We don't have to continually pay every week to have media out there. It'll be out there on Google. Now, having said all that, there are some threats. So ChatGPT, Bing AI is currently in the works in beta, and adoption will probably change a lot of the strategy here. So we're going to be studying that and looking at the impact of new technologies. But at the end of the day, there is always a need for quality content. And we simply just need to communicate to prospects that we have great content that will educate our new members and teach them what to do and how to make better decisions as an individual investor. We've hired a new financial analyst to help us with that. So she's going to bring some of her expertise to improve the quality of our articles. So this slide shows the impact of the new traffic that we're seeing. Traditionally, a lot of our organic search traffic was from journal articles. So there was that green band you see there on the left. That has since shrunk, and you see that the red band, which is our new ticker articles that we've been producing, are now very dominant in terms of the share of traffic coming in from organic search. They now represent about 55% of the traffic coming in. And if we hit our goals by the end of the year, it'll be more like 85–90% of the share of traffic. So it'll really be what is bringing in new members in terms of organic channels. So now, what do they look like? Generally speaking, they are younger. So this chart illustrates the age breakdown for, on the left, ticker article search traffic, and then on the right, it's overall AAII.com traffic, AAII.com organic search traffic, excuse me. So as you can see, there are a lot of young users there, and that is important to us, that just the thought of an 18-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 35-year-old making their first touch with AAII through a ticker search, that has a very powerful imprint in their mind. And so organic search is also a form of brand awareness that is going to be important to us, because these folks, as they grow and mature as investors, even if they don't convert at that time, they're going to come back and in their minds see us as an authority in this kind of content, and will come back to us. That's kind of the idea behind that. So with that, that was my last slide. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Pete. We're going to combine the questions a little bit, because the questions we're getting kind of transect what Jen is covering and what John covered and you covered. And I'd like to interrupt for a moment and invite my co-pilot and co-host for this event, Rob Bernstein, to say a few words, because he needs to leave, and I wanted to make sure he had a chance to present his reactions and his thoughts from his perspective and his helicopter view as a chapter leader and a member of the Chapter Leaders Executive Committee. Rob, it's all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hollis. Thanks, everyone. As many of you know, I'm the president of the San Diego chapter, also a member of the Chapter Leaders Executive Committee, as Hollis mentioned previously. Just wanted to say a few words about the CLEC, or the Chapter Leaders Executive Committee, just to remind you all that it does exist. It's out there to support all of you, all the chapter leaders. The committee is made up of a group of leaders from around the country. Fred Wallace, he's the president of the LA chapter. He's our fearless leader of the CLEC. Unfortunately, he was out of the country on vacation today, so he asked me to step in here for him. The rest of the committee consists of Dennis Lewis out of Cleveland, Linda Poole, St. Louis, Fred Truitt, our newest member out of the Greensboro chapter, and then obviously myself from the San Diego chapter. And just want to remind you, the CLEC is here. It continues to be a sounding board for the chapter leaders across the country. We want to hear from you, so please reach out to us with suggestions, feedback. There is a suggestion box available on the Chapter Leaders Tools webpage on the AAII.com website. That's one of the best ways to reach out to us, and we'll certainly get back to you.
Now, Rob, can you tell us about any specific initiatives the CLEC may be working on, and any ideas on how you might interact with what the, let's say, the liaison does, and what other parts of the Chicago staff are doing, where you fit in with the overall scheme of things?
Yeah, so I think the work on the committee ebbs and flows as issues arise over time. I know, we were actively involved with the, I think it was called the listening tour that happened a couple of years ago. I think it's a couple of years ago. Time flies. But we were actively involved with that. making sure that the chapter leaders of the chapters themselves are an important component to the AAII membership. We continue to work with the AAII leadership to come up with ways to make sure that members know that the chapters are out there. So I don't think there's any specific initiatives we're working on currently, but as I said, that ebbs and flows as ideas are presented, as issues arise. So please use us as a sounding board. We want to be there for all of the chapter leaders to be able to work with Hollis and the rest of the leadership team to make sure things are running as smoothly as we possibly can.
Thank you, Rob. I'd like to publicly acknowledge how very helpful you've been to me in my chapter's journey. When the pandemic hit and we had to embrace Zoom, you were my guiding light, and you taught me some of the best practices that the New York City chapter follows to this very day. And you continue to be an inspiration to me, and I'm very pleased and thankful that you were willing to be my co-host for this event.
Always my pleasure, Hollis. Always my pleasure. So would like to just make one other comment. I guess I'll switch hats a little bit, and this is wearing my president of the San Diego chapter hat. I know chapters across the country are in different phases of restarting their meetings. Some have restarted in-person meetings, some are still doing webinars. Others, I believe, are still trying to figure out the best way forward. Here in San Diego, we've been successful at restarting our in-person meetings. We've been running in-person meetings for a little over a year now. And I wanted to just kind of mention there's all sorts of challenges in this post-pandemic world of getting people back out, finding venues, figuring out how to live stream our meetings if that's something that your chapter wants to do. And I just wanted to share one of the most successful things that I found as a chapter leader is to reach out to your local members and reach out to your chapter leaders, whether that be through the community page that exists for all of us to communicate. But one example is we wanted to live stream our meetings, and I had no idea where to start. And so what I did was I asked our membership, I said, is there anyone out there who could help the chapter live stream our in-person meetings? And I got several offers to help. We selected one, and with their help, it turned out to be a project that was very doable because they had the knowledge. Actually, to be honest, the knowledge existed in this member's son. So we can even leverage the younger generation who is very familiar with all this technology. And who knows, there might be a child, a grandchild out there that would love to help out your local chapter, but you got to go out and ask. And my experience is when you make these asks, ask for something specific. Ask for someone to help you live stream. Ask them, I need help setting up a website. Be very specific. I found that has been one of the key factors in our success in launching our in-person meetings with our live streaming. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Hollis. Hopefully that helps, and I encourage all the chapter leaders to use that community board. I know the CLEC, we monitor that as well as all the other chapter leaders, and I know Jenna and Hollis are out there on it. So let's help each other out, and I think we'll be successful.
Thank you for that very specific advice. Advice well taken. And thank you again for co-hosting with me. Now I would like to turn it over to Jenna, who will update us on community.
Hi, everyone. I actually do want to acknowledge, Rob Bernstein. He made a really good, point there. The CLEC has been, very helpful in, spearheading. They've gotten on community. They post their meetings, they post events, and they email their community members. So it's a great, it's great to see everybody so involved. And with that, let me share my screen real quick. Well, I appreciate you all for joining us tonight. I just wanted to talk about the AAII community since it is at the, I think, the top of a lot of our thoughts, and just because everybody's getting a lot more accustomed to it. we have, I think last time that we met in Q4, that we were getting very comfortable with it. And now it's become, a very, everyday thing. People are using it to communicate with their members, to send out email correspondence, to ask questions in the chapter leader community, and really connect with one another, which is absolutely wonderful to see. So just a few things on the agenda tonight. So we're going to go over what's new, how to get members involved, community specific archive, what is it? How can we use it? Where can we find it? The master library, same things, how can we use it? And also where can we find it? And then the chapter leader community, and then also we'll look to what's next. So what's new? So in Q1, we're looking at new SIG communities. These are national SIG communities that we've launched. I think Hollis mentioned the options investing strategies. So that was one of the newer ones that we have currently created. The technical analysis in response to what John pointed out about the member survey, getting a lot of more people are getting interested and want information about technical analysis and charting and things like that. And then also our value investing. We had multiple members that reached out to me over the course of last quarter asking for a value investing SIG. We had a growth investing already. So it just seems complementary as well to add that in. And actually, we've seen a lot of people talk about different value investing strategies, techniques, especially when we start, you start seeing a little bit more of an uptick in value investing in general. And we also have the AAII volunteer opportunities community that Hollis has spearheaded. This is a community board that is very fresh, very new, but it is there for chapter leaders, board members, and AAII staff to post about available volunteer opportunities in the community. So anything that you need to fill a position on your board, you need a new public relations or anything like that, you can post here and reach a large member base to get those people and recruit them. And then we also have the chapter and community leadership academy. This is also something that Hollis has spearheaded. And this basically, this academy prepares new chapter leaders to perform their roles, helps experienced leaders expand their skills, which we always, can always use, and recognize all leaders for their service with specific benefits and rewards. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get members involved. So if you've been on your chapter, if you've logged into your chapter leader community, you probably have noticed that it's a little bit silent. There's a lot of chapter leaders who are very vocal and they're sharing community discussion threads. They're sending out emails. They're getting people to show up and register. But the discussion boards are a little quiet, So basically, I just wanted to talk about how to get members involved, especially those who may be a little bit apprehensive at first. So basically, this not only falls on the chapter leaders, but also on AAII staff. We can support you in any way that is possible for us. But these are just a couple of quick suggestions and things that we can do to make people feel very accustomed and comfortable with getting into the AAII community. So post meeting recordings. And I'll mention that a lot of the CLEC and other chapter leaders are getting really comfortable with posting their meeting recordings. This is one of the best ways to involve members, is to just consistently post any and all meeting recordings that you have within your community specific library, which acts like an archive, which is really nice. And for those chapters that do not have a personal website or a personal, anything like that, or if, they just want to have somewhere that they can see all of their recordings, share them easily, and really just have it, see things in the past and and post things in the future. Also engage members with discussions. Another great way to engage members is to post insightful pre or post meeting discussions where you can discuss the topics covered within the meeting. You guys are able to, facilitate really insightful and very exciting speakers. I've seen a lot of them. I do a lot of the editing. Actually, I do all the editing, and they are fantastic. The topics are very, they're timely. I really, enjoy really watching them. And this is something that, you can also get members involved and very excited about. Talking about pre or post meeting discussions, you can talk about what are you excited to, talk about, or what are you excited about to hear about from the speaker that is coming up? What kind of questions do you hope that they address during their presentation? And then the post meeting discussions can be anything from inviting the speaker to participate, which is something that we can do, or you can even just, what were your thoughts about the presentation? What didn't they cover that you wish that they had? What are some, residing questions you have that you wish, you could have answered during the time? And then also the other thing is sharing helpful resources and blogs. So, your community is there for you to post anything, as far as if you want to post slides from your presentation, if you want to post helpful resources about, articles that you found recently, or new books that, speakers have, put out there. This is a great place to post them, and so that members can easily access and start asking questions and, downloading them for their ease of access as well. And I talked about inviting speakers to participate. If this is something that you would like to do, let's say you have a speaker, like Christine Benz, or somebody who has already been very active in the AAII community, has done multiple, webinars, things like that. You can reach out to Hollis, and we can actually invite them to participate in the community if they so do please. And so the big question is, when is the last time you logged into your AAII community? So I know a lot of people are very active, but I think the best way to do this is that if you continue to be consistent with your postings, such as events, your meeting recordings, members are going to come in as well. They're going to feel comfortable. They're going to know that that's the place to find these resources, that you're the one that is going to be posting them, and that they trust you to give them the resources they need to be a better investor, to be a better chapter member. So this is a great time. I log into the AA community every day. So this is also a great place to connect with people. So if you can let your members know that this is a great forum, to talk to the other chapter leaders, to talk to your chapter leader or other board members. So it's really about facilitating access and getting people excited about, understanding that this is the place to be, and this is the place to get all the things that you need to be successful. Other question is, do you follow discussion threads in the chapter leader community? Right now, it's been a little bit subdued. I know people, it's going to be an ebb and flow, whether, people have questions or things like that. But it's very pertinent that you are following the discussion threads in the chapter leader community, not only for your own benefit, but for the benefit of others as well. You're a source of wisdom yourself. And so that maybe, I know Rob Bernstein, I mentioned that he had a question about how to live stream. Well, this is something that, you can post in the chapter leader community and ask other people, hey, have you done this before? How do you do you have any wisdom for me starting out? Do you have any suggestions? What didn't work for you? What should I avoid? So this is also, a great way, what kinds of topics are successful? What have you done in the past? What speakers have we not, reached out to? Which ones were successful in bringing a large group? So this is somewhere where you can really lean on each other. And this is also where you can lean on AAII staff, because I'm always in there. I can always answer questions. We have a myriad of other people that can do that so as well. And so the big takeaway on this, I would say, is that make sure that you have your email notifications enabled. If you're not getting email notifications from the AAII community, then you can reach out to Hollis, and we can always help you through that. So another topic that I want to talk about is the community library. So every chapter has their own community library. And like I mentioned before, this is your ultimate archive to store important resources. So you can use your community library as an archive where you can store as well as organize your chapter meetings, as well as other related materials and files. Files include like Word docs, PDFs, PowerPoints, Excel documents. You can, post your recordings, so video formats. YouTube's obviously when you receive your recordings, they're in YouTube format. It makes it really easy to write some text about it. You can post the slides of your presentation, and everybody can access on demand at any time. So addressing one of the big issues is time commitment. This is something that you can use for people who don't have the time at the moment to go attend a meeting, but they would love to see your on-demand webinar or meeting to get more information and still feel a part of the chapter itself, even if they couldn't be there in person or on the Zoom. And so the other thing is, the element of this is the master library. So basically, this is one hub that you can view all library entries all in one place. So this means that you can see everything from the Prism Academy, the National SIG communities, the IEGs, other chapter events, anything that people post on here that they have selected to be public, or not public, but public within the AAII member database, then it'll show up here. So this means that not only you will be able to access just your own member base, but you can, like I mentioned before, you can also reach other chapters across the country. So this is something that you can leverage your meetings and webinars to attract new members. And it's always wonderful to see, like I said, if somebody has left the area and they wish they could still be a part of their chapter back at home, this is somewhere where that they can find those library entries and they can actually watch on demand and feel that they're actually a part of that chapter still, even though they're not there in person. And so this is for more of, I'll be sharing my slides with everybody, with the group later on, but this is how do you get to the master library. It's very simple. I included a screenshot here, but I can show you if we have some time at the end on a really quick demo. But basically you go to participate, which is in the top heading top navigation bar, and then you go down to master library. So click on that, and then basically you can select the type of document you are looking for from the drop down labeled all, and you can see which ones you want. So if you want like video versus documents or things like that. And then you can also create a new library entry from there as well. So the chapter leader community is the ultimate hub to, like I said, get answers really quick. This is something that you can, that we're all on, during business hours, that we can check at a moment's notice. And then you can also post your questions, access key resources, and find help and get news. And just a quick look, what's next for Q2. So basically a couple things, initiatives that we're looking at is a new look for email notifications from the AAII community, an improved FAQ page and section for convenient 24/7 assistance, more SIG communities to cover various investment topics. And these are based on either members coming to us and requesting, as well as input from the member survey. And then premium product communities like A+ Investor to discuss how to best utilize its tools and resources. And yeah, thank you so much. And sorry for the brief interruption, but I hope if you have any questions, always feel free to post in the community, or you can message Hollis at chapters@aai.com, and I'm happy to answer and help in any way I can.
Thank you, Jenna. Nobody could cover so much territory so effectively in such a quick time. Before we catch up with the questions, I would like to just go through a couple of things about the chapters. Bear with me. That's where we left things. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. When we last touched base in November, wait a second. There we go. When we last touched base in November, there were 30 active chapters. We sadly lost 2 in 2022, 20 holding meetings, and so on and so forth. What did the chapters look like today? For some reason, there's a delay in transferring the slides, for which I apologize. Oh my goodness. Okay. What chapters and their communities look like now? We've made some progress, more in quality and activity than we have in numbers. We currently have 32 active chapters. 19 are currently holding meetings. 8 of them are using live streaming, of which I regard the alpha chapters with the absolute best practices that we want to emulate. I would say are San Diego, Los Angeles, and Research Triangle. Some people are holding only webinars because the chapters, by and large, especially in major markets such as New York and San Francisco, we're having trouble finding venues that are affordable, accessible, and convenient. And 5 chapters are holding only in-person events. They've got the venue, but they haven't been able to work at the mojo to use Zoom to live stream them. And we hope to change that. We hope that every chapter will be able to live stream so that the magic and momentum and the information of their chapter meetings will be available, not just in their local neighborhoods, but to the entire AAII community nationwide. Here we go. I wanted to share with you a couple of the accomplishments and initiatives that I've been working on. You're all familiar with the chapter meeting record that now makes it possible for us to see what the other chapters are doing and keep track of what's going on in the chapters, hopefully to prevent duplication of effort, and also to, give me 1 second here, I made a couple of notes to share with you. To see what's going on, the topics, the speakers, who's live streaming, who's doing what, so that we're not working at cross purposes and we can expand the opportunities rather than duplicate them. I also initiated the technical analysis SIG and the options and strategies SIG because I felt that these issues and ideas would attract and retain younger members. And I hope that I agree with Jenna that we should expand the number of topical SIGs because they will enable us to cross-promote. I mentioned the ability to cross-promote between the San Diego Options SIG and the National Options Investing Strategy SIG. Hopefully, we'll be able to have more of these collaborations to spread the wealth. We also started working with inter-chapter collaborations. I'll give you an example. New York collaborated with Twin Cities, and I believe that their chairman, Alan Hoppy, is on this call. We combined forces in March. We had 95 people online attending, which is bigger than either chapter could have gotten on their own. And more people had a chance to hear the speaker, who was Jason Kimmel. And more people had a chance to appreciate the interaction of the Q&A, and just it's kind of very upbeat when you have a robust audience, you know, that other people are interested and involved. We also launched the Leadership Academy, and the Leadership Academy was intended to do a couple of things, mostly to provide recognition for the work that our leaders do, to provide specific benefits because graduates of each level of the Leadership Academy will be entitled to receive free subscriptions to the AAII premium product of their choice, and to ensure a uniform level of service so that, let's say, the member in Portland, Oregon has the same experience as the member in Portland, Maine, so that the leaders will have the same level of preparation and education for their roles, and they can count on a very uniform quality membership experience across the board. The Leadership Academy was designed as a three-level, three-tier process. Level 1 is the qualified leader for beginning leaders, new leaders, and those who are taking on new roles. Then there will be the master leader and the ambassadorial leader. You can read more about that in the quarterly chapter leaders newsletter that I just sent out the other day, and more online. There is a community for the Leadership Academy. We're looking for beta testers for level 1, the qualified leader. All you have to do is go through the resources, give us some feedback about what you think of them and how we can improve them, and take an open book certification quiz at the end, just to validate that you were able to find the resources that we reference in the learning program, and that you're able to benefit from them. Once you do that, level 1, you'll have a beautiful little, we've designed these badges that you can use in your AAI chapter leader role when you send out chapter related emails. And we hope that you will enjoy the experience and benefit from it. Also, in addition to the collaboration between Twin Cities and New York, we have a joint meeting planned in May between Greensboro and New York City to just solidify the proof of concept that chapter collaborations are value added to the system nationwide. And in June, we're going to have what we call Webinar de Gras, where a whole bunch of chapters are going to get together in a single meeting to see if there's strength in numbers. Let me see if there's anything else right now. The slides are advancing slowly, but I think I've said enough, and I want to focus on the Q&A right now. Let's see what questions have come in. I'll stop screen sharing and return to the Q&A. Okay. Here we go. David Drake asked the question, for joint chapter meetings, how does revenue sharing work? Revenue sharing. Well, that's a very good question, David, and this will come up because Greensboro does charge for its meetings and New York does not. So we decided to give Greensboro pride of place, and we're all going to charge the same fee for the meeting, which is just $7 to attend online. And we will split the revenue based on a rough analysis of who came from which chapter, and we'll let Greensboro call the shots. We weren't that obsessed with capturing every single dollar of revenue as we were to proving that the collaborations were productive. Another question from Todd Blinkenstaff. When AAII began decades ago, there weren't many providers of independent investment research. Today, there are many more providers. How does AAII differentiate itself in this changed environment? And what are AAII's key differentiating factors? Maybe John would like to comment on this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and something that we here look at all the time and try to consider. I mean, we always, our focus is how can we give the individual investor some sort of edge when it comes to their investment process. And there's different ways to do that. I mean, it's accentuate those situations in which an individual can perhaps take a longer term perspective. One of the challenges with professional money managers is they're very much focused towards being able to perform well on a quarterly basis or a comparison against peers. As individuals, you know, we are able to sort of take advantage of some of the short-term market volatility to reach our long-term goals. That's one area. So it's always a focus of trying to highlight those areas where individual has some sort of advantage. A focus on evidence-based investing. There are many snake oil salesmen that out there, unfortunately, in the area of investment finance that try to really make things sound very promising, but that don't turn out to be that way. I mean, taking a look at the market segments that are perhaps those where a individual can invest in that institutions can't invest in too well, such as small caps, micro caps. So it's just trying to basically highlight all those segments that the individual has some sort of advantage, providing a filter through our research, through our tools, where individuals can sort of focus in on what really matters and try to avoid what all those distractions that we get to nowadays. So it's through our education and through our filtering processes is sort of what I like to think of as far as how we try to advantage, how do we make that individual investor kind of become an advantage? I mean, you're right. We've gone from having too little information to too much, and being able to translate noise and filter out noise from what's really meaningful.
Thank you. That was very helpful. We have a question from another guest. Have all chapter and SIG leaders been trained on how to use all AAII products and tools? And that question, I think, will be answered by the Leadership Academy, because level 3, the ambassadorial leader, is one who has been thoroughly trained on AAII products and services and can represent them from the platform at chapter meetings and on chapter Zooms. So there'll be more on that later. And I took a question from somebody who couldn't attend in person, but wanted me to bring this up for the benefit of the entire audience. He asked, do we know whether chapter Zoom meetings or chapter in-person meetings are more successful? Which one is working out better, Zooms or in-person meetings or live stream meetings? Well, the truth is we really don't know. And there are a couple of reasons why not. First of all, we don't have a common definition of what constitutes a successful meeting and a successful chapter. Are meetings successful when you get more attendance? Are they successful when you have more of an increase in attendance? For example, the gross numbers are an absolute measure, and some chapters are just plain bigger and have more muscle power, so they'll have bigger attendance. But other chapters with a smaller baseline membership will increase more rapidly because they're doing things that attract more members and more participation. So we have absolute numbers and relative numbers. And also, in a balanced scorecard environment, there are other ways of determining the success of a meeting. Very few chapters are using evaluation forms to find out what members think. And my goal, especially for my third quarter targets, is to start creating a culture of evaluation where we spend more time focusing and measuring the things that we care about, not just for the numerical part, but also the qualitative parts. I'd like the chapters to become immersed in measuring the things that they care about, how their members think and feel, what's working and what isn't working. And I hope by the next time we have our third quarter chapter leader conference call, I'll be able to give some very specific examples, not necessarily about whether it's better to do a Zoom, a live stream, or an in-person meeting, but how to make the most of each genre and benefit the most and get the best results from each of those types of meetings. With that in mind, I'd like to invite John, Jenna, and Pete to have, if you have any last final words you'd like to say to the chapters.
Jenna, why don't you go ahead? We'll just start us off. Now that you're back, now that you've been kicked out of your party room. Oh, I think
Jenna, you're
might-
mute. We can't
might be
hear you.
frozen.
She's frozen.
I think Jenna's frozen.
Oh, Jenna's
So with that,
frozen.
I'm gonna throw it over to Pete.
She's
maybe,
back.
and then we'll see
Are you
how
there?
Jenna's.
Oh, Jen,
Oh.
here she is.
Are you able to hear me now?
I
Yes.
can hear you now.
Okay, so hopefully, yeah, sorry about
Jenna froze again, but you can see from her smiling face, she's totally enthusiastic and committed to making chapters and community the best and brightest place to be. We'll be hearing more from her, and hopefully we'll have more different ways of communicating with the chapters going forward. And you'll always be able to hear Jenna during the PRISM events, and I hope everybody will sign up for PRISM. And I also have a couple of words of advice for the chapters, which is, if you're a chapter leader, sign up for, if you can't sign up for every single chapter, sign up for the ones you admire most. I consider the alpha chapters, as I mentioned, to be Los Angeles, San Diego, and Research Triangle. But I belong to each and every one, not just because I track them as liaison, but because they show me, they expose me to the best practices that are going on by other chapters and how their program chairs handle the creation and the handling of their chapter meetings. Sign up for the chapter communities, follow along. You've got nothing to lose. Pete, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I just want to just say, as we're kind of ending here, that I'd like to think that I'm always where I want to be, doing exactly what I want to do. So I'm just happy that we had the hour and a half to meet with you and speak with you. I'd like to also think that I'm very accessible. So feel free to shoot me an email at peter@aai.com. If you have any questions on any of our marketing tactics, or if there's anything that AAI can do for you from a marketing perspective.
One quick question. How is the search engine optimization plan working?
It's working well. Since the last time we met in November, we've about doubled our search engine traffic. Early on, we're seeing doublings of once every 6 weeks. Now it's about once every 14, 15 weeks. So it has slowed down its pace a little bit, but we're still growing the traffic.
Thank you. The recording of this event will be posted to community within a week or so. You will also have access to PDF versions of our slides, and Jenna, Pete, John, Charles, and myself all standing ready to answer your questions, whether be it posted in community or personally. I'd like to end this by thanking John, thanking Pete, thanking Jenna, and thanking Charles for having delivered kind of masterpiece presentations. I think of myself as walking among giants with my Chicago colleagues. I am totally in awe and impressed by the commitment, the camaraderie, and the capable competence that they all have. It's a delight to work with them. I walk among giants. And
Well,
I feel that way about
thank
my
you so
fellow
much,
chapter leaders.
Allison. First of all, I want to thank you, first of all, for doing such a great job as a local chapter liaison. I also want to thank so much the local chapter leaders that have taken their time to not only join in our call tonight, but work tirelessly to bring great investment education to our members, interact with our members, and really make the shared experience of how to benefit from each other's knowledge take place. So thank you, Hollis, and thank you, everyone of you, our local chapter leaders. So much kudos goes to all of you.
Good night and so long for now. Thanks to all. Happy trails.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Take care.